Welcome, everyone. My name is Trisha Kirby. I am your guest host today on Clear Vision Wednesday, and I work on Claudia's team. And so today we have a really special guest this Clear Vision Wednesday, and it's something near and dear to my heart. It's a subject that has come up so many times in my practice working with coaching vision clients that their vision is associate some of their vision concerns, some of the decline in their vision, the blur, the health issues, seems to relate back to a form of loss. And this is a form of loss. It could be grieving the loss of an actual person, like someone who passed away in your family, or a pet, or a loved one, partner, spouse. It can be the loss of a job or a divorce. It can be the loss of circumstances. Maybe your home changes or you move, but whether it's in current time, like it just happened, or it was 10 or 15 years ago, that grieving, that loss continues on, and it continues to affect us. And it's just something that I have noticed, because when I have talked with people and intuitively looked at their vision situations, I have looked at the cataracts or the macular degeneration, or even just regular blur in their life, and I have intuitively seen it had to do with a loss of some kind. So I thought, let's bring this on as a topic, because this is a really important one. And I had this exact experience myself. I, a few years back, had a series of what is called complicated grief. I had a series of losses. I lost 3 family members and I think 6 or 7 friends in the span of a year. And I was really, it was like every time I started to recover, I would take another hit and another person would die. And it was just a loss after loss after loss. And I went to a lot of grief workshops. I went to hospice classes and grief recovery classes, and read the books on it. And I was still a mess. I still cried all the time. I felt like the whole world was black and white. I struggled. I was like hitting bottom over and over again, and the bottom kept changing and going lower. And then I went to a little workshop at a Unity church here locally, and I met a person named Jennifer Farmer. And she was leading a spiritual program and doing mediumship. And I didn't know anything about that at the time, and I listened. And then I bought a couple of her meditations, and they helped, and I felt a little better. And I thought, this is interesting. And then I started studying with her, and she dramatically helped me. It helped me when nothing else would help me. And then I have been in her programs now for a few years, and I have watched people enter the program and been in a really dark place. And then I've seen the light come on again inside of them and in their lives, and I've seen them transform. And it's not just that you begin to heal from grief and loss, it's that you build a sense of resilience that you didn't have before. And so when you have newer losses come in, now you know how to deal with them. Like, you don't end up getting knocked backwards. I mean, it's been dramatic to see the difference that it makes in people's lives. And it's just a whole different way of dealing with death and loss. So it gives me great pleasure I'm going to bring her on in just a moment, but I want to mention, she was named as, she is a professional intuitive, a medium, a speaker, spiritual teacher, and author of an absolutely wonderful journal workbook on healing grief. But she was ranked best psychic medium in the United States from Bob Olson, creator of Best Psychic Mediums and the author of Afterlife TV. So as a spiritual teacher, she is beyond the par. Fantastic. And just an amazing, absolutely amazing human being. I have watched her in mediumship many times, and she is the real deal. And if you don't know what mediumship is, it's connecting with your spirit family on the other side. And there's actually a good deal of research coming out now that is very healthy to do. And so, like, learning to keep that connection with our loved ones in spirit. I'm not talking about ghosts here. I'm actually talking about like our spirit family is a good thing. So we're going to be talking today about grief, and I'm going to bring Jennifer on, and then I'm going to give her the stage. Welcome.
Hey, Trisha. Hello, everybody. Just want to check in, make sure you can hear me okay. All right. I got I guess got my little lipstick. Do we have anything about lips in grief? I'm just thinking out loud. So first of all, I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you, Tricia, for inviting me to be a part of your community. This is such a powerful topic, and it's I have seen so many physical things that happen to people as they deal with loss, not just eyes, but heart conditions and there's a plethora of physical attributes that our body experiences under great stress. And so anything I can do today to encourage each of you that are listening to think about your physical body, your eyes, of course, that's what we're here. We're healing our vision. But to also look at your life as it relates to when you had to start wearing glasses, when that began to happen, or when things, for me, I started wearing glasses in the 3rd grade, right? And I know why I had to wear glasses in the 3rd grade, because I didn't want to see what was going on in my world, in my physical world. And so for me, it's one of those things that my eyes are, I've always paid attention to my eyes. And I feel like having eye problems actually has helped me elevate my intuition. It's helped me elevate my senses. It's helped me be aware of my guardian angels, of God, of my spirit family, meaning my loved ones that have passed. And so even if we're going through having a vision problem, I look at that as an opportunity that although your body is healing and you're reframing, an experience in your life and you're healing your vision, that it's also an opportunity that your body is helping you experience the world in different ways if you will allow that to do that while your eyes heal. So I love to talk about the spirit world. I love to help people get started on their path in healing their mind state or body, whether it's from past trauma or whether it's from a recent loss, or if it's one of those weird things like the empty nester syndrome, right? So if anybody's been, if you've been a parent and you've cared for your children and they've moved off, the world looks different. And what I would say is that there's not a lot of training on empty nest. There's not a lot of training on, and this is, I know there's probably men and women in here, but we don't get a lot of those big life training lessons like with menopause. I feel like when we go through those big milestones, that it takes us a minute to catch up and to understand how we want to participate in life. And, with you, Tricia, I really admire you and how you really had the courage to just keep showing up to life through all those losses. I feel like your loved ones on the other side kind of encouraged you to keep going. And it was a very lonely time for you. And it's been a real pleasure to meet you. So I'm here today to share some insight on things that you can do to connect to the spirit world, here to think about where you can heal through spiritual energy, through spiritual healing. I can talk about your questions. I'm here to share my experience. I've been doing this now since 16 years. And it wasn't what I had planned to do, right? I was going to go work in the corporate world and be a regular person. And I did not want to be different than other people. That's probably one of the reasons why I needed glasses, because I felt very different from people for a very part of my life. And it just helped me learn how to adapt to the physical world. And so I still wear glasses today, although my vision has improved over time. Now I'm farsighted. And I feel like that is attributed to, and this is just one of those things, right, that there's things that we control and things that we can't control and things that we don't know that is a deal. But I was adopted at birth. And part of my vision problems is I had a big film over my eye. I was 2.5 months premature, and they say it's from the incubator, but I'd be curious if it's because my mother at that time, she just walked out of the waiting room and left me there. So it's kind of like, I think even as as infants and children, that we are such sensitive beings, that we know when love leaves and we know when love is with us. And so, incubator or not, my eyes have been improved. I've been given support by a loving family, and, things have improved in my life. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be here, Trisha. Hope that's kind of, we're on topic, kind of things you wanted to talk about.
Yes. Thank you so much. And you were going to share the steps to healing grief, like some little hints for people that they can take away.
Yeah. So there's it, we see TV, right? Or TV makes it, oh, look, she's falling around and looking at people, and, she can see people. Well, we sense people. We don't always see them with our physical eyes, right? So just kind of put the presence of one of the steps of healing grief is being open to communicate with the other side, whether that's your guardian angels, whether it's God, whether it's your guides, and if it's your loved ones, right? So some of us, when our loved ones pass, we're mad. Like, we don't want to talk to them. We don't even want to go to their funeral. I don't know if anybody's had that experience, but I did. I'm like, you can't leave me, right? So one of the first things we have to do is give ourselves permission. To give ourselves permission to grieve, to have whatever experience that we're going to have, to choose to be unhealthy for a while and then get on board, right? So not everybody handles grief like, I'm just going to go to counseling and get better. No, you can do that, but occasionally you'll have these, what I call stormy weather days, where all the progress that you've made. And so another tip another thing that I really put out there is, one, we have to give ourselves permission to heal, to grow, to transform, to struggle. That we can't judge ourselves because everybody else has moved on and you're still wondering if everybody's forgot about your loved one. Or if it's about like a divorce. A divorce is huge, especially if you have a long-term commitment with a partner and, everybody else has moved on and they've made new friends, or they have new this and they have new that. And so you're in this space where you don't know how to see yourself. You don't know how to relate to the person in the mirror. What I would say, remember, you are a divine child of spirit. That's always the first and foremost. No matter what happens on this world, you came in this world as a beautiful soul, and you'll leave this world a beautiful soul. It's what we leave here behind and what we contribute is what really helps us fulfill our destiny. So the first thing we do is we realize that grief is different for everybody. I know we have the 5 stages that people talk about, but not everybody goes through the 5 stages. And some people move around. I love, I work with people that have lost children. Those are difficult emotions if you've lost a child. Not to say any other loss is easier, but there's something very unique about a child going before a parent. And one of the things, and I love this story, is that one of the ladies that sponsors a group that I participate in, she says, grief's like a rock, it's in your pocket. And, it's there. And some days you can feel it in your pocket and some days you can't. And so I feel like as we look at our vision, and we look at, are we giving ourselves permission to have a new vision for your life after loss? I feel like that's one of the hardest decisions that people, as humans, that we go through, is deciding to heal. And that means healing from our regrets, healing from self-destruction, healing from things that didn't go well, things that did go well. And just the overall healing, the sense of absence, that the world looks different. And I mean, Trisha really said it. Going through that kind of loss, the world looks black and white. That it was such that I am going to save that one. So one, we give ourselves permission. So I would ask you, if you're dealing with this in your world, your eyes, or it may be another issue, here we're focused on our eye health. What is it that you would like to see differently in your life? And he said, you're thinking about this, one of, we lose our partners, the vision that you had your life, you're going to grow old and you're going to, be like the Notebook. Everybody's going to go together, right? Well, then spirit comes in and says, no, we have other missions for you and your partner's got to go before you then, but you didn't have that vision. And it takes time to decide what that's going to look like. And then you put all the complications of regret and I wish I could have said this, and I wish I would have done that. And then you just get the insecurities of humans and you add that to it. So progress can be slow, but I always believe that anytime we make a decision to move forward and move forward in our life, one step at a time towards the vision that we would like to create, that we begin to heal in every area of our life. And that includes physical. The third thing that I always like to talk about, and I did talk about stormy weather. So they're in my book, A Healing Journey. Now, it's interesting that we are talking about vision here, because I feel like when you can get things out and put them on paper, you get them out there's a whole sort of releasing things. But if you can't see the paper very well, how are you going to get it out? So what I would say is get a bigger canvas, right? Get a bigger canvas and get a bigger paintbrush. So how do we get out our feelings and our emotions, those repressions? And we look for ways to express. And we don't have to live there, but we have to have a way to express, I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye. I can't believe it. I didn't get to, let that person know I love them. I still have regrets that I didn't go see them in the nursing home as much. You see, these are things that we hold ourselves in contempt, but the spirit world, they're good. They're good. They love, they're in a place where you don't have to earn love or have to be good or have to be the dutiful daughter. It is when we have to come to love ourselves through the mistakes that we feel like we've made that maybe really aren't mistakes. We were just doing the best we could with what we knew, right? Now, as we look at our world, if we look at the vision of our life and we find that some days are worse than others, let's say your vision kind of gets funky around allergy time. Well, what I'd ask you is, did you have a loss during that season of life? Right? I'm just curious, right? And, what's interesting is I've noticed a change, not so good in my vision as it relates to feeling, and this is just a personal thing, how I know that this session today is timely because I have made some big changes in my life. And had some serious regrets. I moved back to Texas. I love Texas. It's where I wanted to be. I had a beautiful home here. And I left a relationship that wasn't good for me. And when I came back, I had I kind of looked at who I was before. And I was like, I can't believe I sold my house because, housing market has changed in 12 years, right? So, and because I can't see how I'm going to be a new homeowner again. It's interesting. I have an eye doctor appointment coming up. And I know that he is going to tell me, you need some updates on your vision. You're trying to see things close up because I'm very farsighted and I can see, well, it's the things I can't see right in front of my face, right? And that's usually because I feel that, just because I can't figure out how it's going to work, I don't want to look at it. But I'm determined to be a homeowner. And so I'm going to keep my eyes wide open and find a way. And that's the same thing we do with grief. Because as I drive by my old neighborhood and I see my house, this is where I raised my son. I think, there's my house. And why did I? I still sort of do that sometimes. But what I know is that this is a beautiful world that we live in. And if I had one beautiful house, I'm going to have another one. And then I also look around where I live now and I actually use my eyes to look at things that bring me joy. And for me, it's trees and nature. And I definitely am in trees and nature. And there's nothing better than the big Texas sky, as long as there's no pollution in it. But you know what I mean. So we have our timing that we look for where we see a change in our vision. So I would say, look for those stormy days. maybe you have, your loved one's been passed a while, and we've moved on, and now somebody's graduating or getting married, or there's a grandchild, right? What I would say is always encourage, kind of acknowledge that those days may not be perfect. You may have mixed feelings about them, but what's the vision that you would like to bring into those days? And what I would say is always honor with love. So if if you're somebody that brought flowers to your mother who passed, well, get flowers and bring them home. Say, Mom, I gave them to you. Now I'm giving them to me. Happy birthday. I love you. Life, we are transcending, and I'll see you again, right? It's where we acknowledge that those are difficult days. And in doing that, we're not avoiding things. We just kind of plan, I'm going to go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then we just allow ourselves to change our mind on that day. But we acknowledge that there are some tough days, right? Another piece that I think is super important is that we get a purpose. And why is that important? Well, getting a purpose of some sort. Now, you guys already have a purpose. You're learning how to heal yourself, right? You have become responsible for your happiness, for your vision, and for your life. So at some level, you're way ahead of some of the folks that come into my world, right? Some of them that I have can't get out of bed. So, we have to work let's get out of bed, take a shower, and eat once a day, right? That's sometimes how grief can take. And you talk about a dark space. That's what happens. The will to live. So in getting a new purpose, I always sense that, we can be our new purpose, right? We can make a decision and I like to do things in small periods of time, because I feel like if we're focused and we're talking about eye vision, what happens if you stare at something too long? Your eyes water, you start getting sparklies, you lose focus if you stare too long. So what I would say is always encourage to do shorter term goals, right? So my focus is I'm going to come to my vision class on Wednesday, and I'm going to participate in the writing project on this month, right? That you have a 30-day kind of window, and then you can evaluate. But getting a purpose is such a big factor in our soul's way of helping us create a new vision for our life. And it didn't even have to be a big one. Maybe you want to learn to play the piano. Maybe you want to learn to talk to the spirit world. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe it's just you want to learn how to cook instead of go out to eat all the time. It doesn't really, just one purpose and stick to it for 30 days and evaluate. You'll always make progress that way, right? So, and then I got my little workbook here, because in case I had some new things in here, but in my book, A Healing Journey, within each of them, there's like little strategies that I, recommend, but I always feel like I'm here to plant the seed for you to realize what's possible. One is healing is possible. Two, communicating with loved ones is possible. And Tricia is 100% correct that, and I come from the Southern Baptist world, which means we don't talk to dead people, and nobody gets divorced, and nobody dances, or you're all going to hell, right? That's just the way it is, right? And so as you are, if you're in this group, that tells me that you've been open to pursue things maybe outside of beliefs that you have grown up with. And what I would say look at the world as, bigger than what we can describe in human form, right? And so for me, I had to update my understanding of what the spirit world is. And it's not because I can see and feel and sense the spirit world. It's not something I knew I had, or I knew that it was possible. What my goal was to, help me help others. That was my prayer. I thought it was going to be going up the corporate ladder. I did not be with people populating my, beside people while I'm talking to them, and helping other people learn how, helping you, like everyone else, to really connect to the empowering love from the other side that is here to comfort you and to bring you healing in this very difficult sensitive physical world. We're all beautiful spirits. So we had to climb in a body. And, we had to climb in a body. You guys ever sat in a low car? I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but you climb down into this low car. And then you're like, oh, I got to climb out. I always think that's what our spirit was like when we had to climb in the physical body. It's like, whew, I have to sort of get in there. But think about where you are now and what's the one thing that could be your purpose, and put it on the calendar, put 30 days, you'll check in, right? And if it's 45, it's okay. I'm a big believer that imperfect action is okay. We just have to move forward with one little piece of action, and less than perfect is okay, because there's nothing can keep you stuck except you're being stuck, right? So we just take one small step towards getting a deeper understanding of what our vision has. We ask the spirit world, Archangel Michael can help, reveal those unconscious or conscious beliefs that may be contributing to your vision changes. We can also ask Archangel Raphael to help us bring in light to sort of heal our corneas. We can, anytime I go through a physical change in some way, I always ask the spirit world for help in that sense, to help me do for me what I can't do for myself. And sometimes I need help getting a new vision, especially after loss, because of the emptiness and the absence of not just either the person, the people, the places. All right, let me see what I got here. So we got our giving our self permission, right, Tricia? We have our plan for stormy weather, right? And that can change over time. Rest, repair, rebuild. Now, this is super important, because when we start to look at rest, repair, rebuild, again, that can be our purpose. I'm giving myself permission to rest. You guys are already rebuilding your vision. You're rebuilding your outlook on life, that miracles, that you are a miracle, and miracles are rolling through you, through your eye vision and other things. So you are a walking miracle. Right. So rest and repairing and rebuilding. And what I would say is we do one, we don't have to do all of those at once. We rest our bodies, we rest our minds, we rebuild our selves in a confident way. And we also have to look at, in our rebuilding process, our beliefs, our regrets, our sadness. And this is where we can really kind of adopt the attitude of gratitude as a way to get you on the pathway. I always feel like when you're going to walk through a park and you see the mile marker, but the big mountain is up at the top and you're going to climb the mountain. Well, the first step along the way is that the gratitude is your first mile marker. And gratitude is, I'm grateful that I'm here on this side of the rainbow, and that I can have a go at this, right? And then we begin to look at those deeper things within us that help us feel like we're not enough, those insecurities, and we begin to discard those as we're moving up the mountain. And as we move up the mountain, we're just being our true, most highest selves. You see, one of the other things that we look to, and of course the last one is learning to connect to the spirit world, and it takes time to understand the language of the spirit world. But your soul already knows it. So running into someone like me, you may not need someone like me today, but there may come a time. And what I would say to you is, remember that your loved ones are always with you, even the ones that you don't like, because they help us remember how to forgive the unforgivable. That doesn't mean we accept things, but what that is definitely meaning that we sort of give them permission to, for abuse and things like that. But we can understand that they were doing the best they could, even though we didn't like the effects, but we let go of the hold that has on us and frees us for more love. And it helps us see see our lives in a more loving way. So I always say, look through the eyes of love. And if you're struggling with your vision, whether it's, and I do believe regular medicine can help. I do. I'm one of those people that you can do you can experiment with different kinds of techniques and tools and that can give you relief while you are rebuilding your vision for life. Right? Trisha, I know you wanted me to talk about some vision issues. I shared a little bit about my own, but kind of not with the passing, but with the grief of recognizing what I left behind. And well, I've had to come to terms with that. I've had to find some acceptance, and I've had to change my view on how I look at myself as a failure of making a mistake for selling my home, and seeing that, you know what, that put me in another place. I met a whole bunch of other people I wouldn't have met. I had experiences that I wouldn't have. And if that was the cost of the house, then so be it. You see, one of the most important things, you know, I've had a couple of family members that had glaucoma in their life. And one of them was my godmother, I call her A, her name is Etta. She's in spirit now, but she had glaucoma. She came over from the war from Germany as a 17-year-old girl and left her family and came, and, you know, she was a very important person in her life, but I can tell you when her vision got worse as she aged, and she had a hard time feeling her purpose because she physically couldn't do things that she used to do. She was the cook in the church, but she got to a place physically with her arthritis in her knees and her hips. She just couldn't pick up the pans and do that. And it was interesting because I started to see the digression between her ability to be productive and her vision at the same time. And of course, she passed she could not see before she passed, but she felt my presence with her and she knew I was there. You see, those are great things. One of the most, I guess what I would say, this is for somebody who's not open. I had a boyfriend at the time, and he and I knew a whole group of people, and he was not woo-woo, okay? He was a mathematician, okay? And so I'd say spirit world, and it's like, you know, his eyes gloss over. But what was interesting is his best friend died. We got a call, we were eating dinner, and it was his very best friend. His dad had just died 6 months before, and him and his dad were close, but they didn't live together. But him and his best friend, Gordon, and I knew Gordon. But when he woke up, he had a detached retina. And this is a man that I would say I love this man. He's a kind man, but he's not great at expressing emotion. He was very left brain. Hey, that's life. That's what happens. I'm not going to talk about it. You know, and I feel like that was his body just, and this is kind of what I told him. I said, for you, losing Gordon was like you losing your vision. I said, you guys they grew their children up together. They were best friends for more than 25 years. And it's interesting, you know, he was like, oh no, it's just, you know, that's like, well, think about it. How do you feel? And of course, he didn't really want to talk about that. He just thought it was a medical issue. And it was. I mean, he had to get it retouched, but it took him, as he got more involved in his new life, he got his cataracts fixed, his vision became back. But what's interesting is he still always has a haze. Like he sometimes sees double in that. And that's just one of the, I guess I would say, profound experiences that I've met with somebody who's had a passing, and it was instantaneous. How I'm talking within 12 hours. He's at the funeral and we're at the eye surgeon. I mean, that's how that kind of worked. And so we are human beings that we were designed to be wanted, needed, and loved. And when the way we get our needs change, sometimes it takes us a while to catch on to that. And our vision can take a toll on how we see our life, both physically and metaphorically. How can I help today?
That was amazing. That was one of my, spotlight for a minute. I want to come on for a second with you. I'm crying. I wanted to say, I commend you for your storytelling ability and how you teach through stories. It's so powerful. I always like when you talk, I get goosebumps all over because I feel the power in the teaching. And that was like really a touching story. And it reminded me too, I was thinking back on my dad and how he had been in the same career for many years, and then he lost his job in a not nice way. Like they just didn't let him go in a nice way and kind of undermined him. And then he ended up with detached retina and having vision problems, and they couldn't repair it. He had diabetes too, and there was kind of a correlation with that, these regrets and kind of this bitterness about things in life, and he didn't recover from that, and he lost the vision in that eye. And I literally never thought about that until right now when you were telling that story. Just so funny, because then I'm like triggering my mind going, oh my God, that's like my dad. I was thinking what was happening in his life. Oh yeah, he lost his job, right before, and then he retired after that. But still, it was forced retirement because he loved working. Wow, it's just so powerful. Okay, I'm gonna unpin you for a second, but I wanted to ask you, you are hosting a free workshop, you have a Facebook group. Can you talk to people about some of the ways that they can find you and reach you? And maybe if they want to study with you, or if they want to learn from you, you have meditations, you have so much to offer people. It's like a buffet. There's something for everyone in at all different levels. And I was so happy because I'm the buffet person too. I was just like, well, let me just listen to this little talk. Maybe I'll just do like a little meditation. And eventually I was like, I really need this. I feel better when I do. And I really jumped in and went for the whole thing. And then I never left the circle because it just is near and dear to my heart. And like I'm like every Tuesday I'm on the call. Because that's how much I love you. All right, let me go. Please let us know.
Thank you for that. So first of all, if you want to find out about my work or about my book, you can just go to my website, jenniferfarmer.com, right? And on my website now, you'll find a free beginner guide that has a guided meditation. So if you're experiencing loss, or this kind of brings to mind, I think I've been hearing my mother with me, or I'm pretty sure I think that's my baby cat that is with me, but that I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye. And you want to kind of pursue that. Let me just tell you, first of all, no harm can come to you from the spirit world. That, I went to school in London. When I realized I had the ability, I went to school. I couldn't find a school in Fort Worth, Texas that taught me how to connect to people. So I went across the pond, which people are pretty open there, which is awesome. So first of all, you may have some misconceptions. So number one, you're not bothering your loved ones. If you're feeling their presence, they are wanting you to know they are with you. If you're seeing signs, or you're seeing duplicate signs, or when you hear a sign, you think, oh, well, if you hear a song, you're like, oh my gosh, that's what we played at my dad's, service for when he got his big medallion pin, right? That kind of thing. Then and you feel a touch in your heart, just be open to say, oh, hey, Dad, I love you. Right? I hear you. I'm with you. The beginner guide is on there, and it's just a very quick tip sheet on what connecting to loved ones is, what connecting to loved ones isn't. There's a guided meditation to help you release some of the grief that, what I'm going to say, the emotions that may hold your vibration down, right? Sadness. it's hard to be present when you're in grief, if you understand my point. So sometimes the 12, 16-minute meditation can raise your awareness up for the entire day, that now you're like, oh my gosh, I saw a license plate where my dad was from, and I was just thinking about him. Right? It's that kind of thing. What I would say is hello from heaven. Be willing to receive that. If you're somebody that's wanting to develop your intuition and work with the spirit world, meaning your guides, you want to be closer to God, that you want to kind of work with the healers in the spirit world, that's called channeling, right? It's the same pathway in which we get there. The Spirit Pathway Workshop is a kind of on-demand, do it on your own. That's also on my website. But if you really want to kind of get the full, like how to connect and communicate with the spirit world in any of these capacities, I do a free workshop once a year. And it's how to communicate with the spirit world more effectively. It is on October 17th. You just have to sign up. I'll send you an email when we are starting, give you the Zoom link. We usually go about 90 minutes. I go through the 7 steps to connect to the spirit world. And then I answer questions and all kinds of stuff. So if you feel if my teaching style resonates with you, I always feel like there's a lot of opportunities to learn. But if you feel drawn to my work or kind of the way I flow, I invite you to come. And even if you're curious, just come and listen. Because you may hear something that may be something that you've been thinking about, but your neighbor next door is the one that really needs to hear that her Aunt Mary is with her, right? So that you can kind of help the spirit world spread the good news that it's okay. And they want to help us. We are not harming them by connecting with them. They don't care if it's been 100 years or 50 years since they passed. If you're in need, they want to help. That's their goal, is to bring love and healing to this world. So my website will have all that stuff on it. The free Facebook community. Now that's a little different. People were a little, I want people to feel safe talking about the spirit world. And I just created a private free Facebook group. And in that group, I do teachings periodically. We have inspirational post in there, but it's a group of people that you can feel safe saying, I think my son is having some psychic experiences. Does anybody have that experience? Or I had a dream last night. Does anybody, understand why I keep getting the dragonfly, right? So it's a space where that being a little woo-woo, that I created a space where it's all spiritual seekers are welcome. You don't have to be a professional, you just be a beginner, or you can be a professional. We have all kinds in there. And it's a place where you can come in and feel safe to communicate, or just, as I call, lurking. We have a lot of folks that just like to read stuff, and that is okay too. But don't be afraid to raise your hand up and ask a question too.
Okay, thank you so much. And I want to speak to too, like when I first started, I thought what I wanted more than anything was just to be able to talk with my mom and talk with some of my pets that had passed away. And I was in such a dark, deep, grieving place. I didn't realize that I needed to give myself the space to heal. I needed to basically raise my vibrational frequency up to get to a place where I could actually connect, because people don't realize, like regular people don't think about it, but that the frequency in the spirit world is just at a higher vibration than us. And when you're in grief, you are at a lower frequency. So it took me a little while to learn it, but what I learned in your classes and in the groups was how to do that, and how to really how to sense and communicate, but more importantly, to hear my loved ones, to actually have those little wonderful little miracles in the daytime, where I'm going along and I have a sign and something happens, and like, oh, I know, I think that was a sign from my mom. I think that was from her. And it's stuff that's beyond coincidence. Like I have kind of a life of a flow of miracles anyway, when I'm in a higher state in a good place. But when you get signs from your loved ones, it's just the best thing in the world. I mean, you're like on cloud 9, because when you lose somebody, your whole world is blown apart. So do you have any favorite stories of your loved ones keep sending you a little sign?
Well, I think one of the most, and for me, I love reading for people. I love teaching people, and so my loved ones are kind of different, but I recognize them, I feel them. But I think one of my favorite stories that was a shocker to me, that for me, because I hear my loved ones, I sense them, I feel drawn to them in certain ways, but I haven't actually seen them the same way. And my mother, my son and I flew back home. My mother passed, and we got up the next morning. We were at the airport very early. It was like 5:30 a.m. It was before, anybody is awake. And it's freezing in the airport. And I look over and I see my mom and dad together, smiling and waving with me on the chair. And I look and I'm thinking, I have really lost my mind. And I could see my dad and my mom just so happy. I'm like, they're like, hey, we're good. I'm like, and that was one of those moments that, I didn't expect it. I wasn't looking for it, but I had enough awareness that, all I was trying to do is get on the plane and go to sleep. Right. So it's one of those things for me that it will always stay with me, because to see them, and for me, when I say see, so let me kind of explain that for people. There's subjective clairvoyance and there's objective clairvoyance. And objective clairvoyance is when you can see them like a regular physical person incarnate. Now that's like, I always kind of relate that to everybody can sing, but objective clairvoyance is the one like Celine Dion. Okay. Everybody can sing in the shower. That's subjective, but not everybody's like Celine Dion. So it doesn't happen a lot. So when I had that in my waking time, and it's like I could describe what they look like. My dad looked good. He looked like he did 20 years before he passed. And my mother, she just, what's your dad? It was very moving. Of course, I look at my son. I go, oh my God, there's your grandparents. There's your grandparents. He's like, oh, But I'm like, you don't see that? You don't know, Mom. I don't see that. I'm just like, okay. But for me, it was a perfect way that I knew they were okay. And I knew it was it was the day after my mom's funeral. So one of the things that people talk about is the way, when I say see them, I typically see them, and this is why I wanted to talk about ghost and shadow for just a second. So a lot of them, will say, you have a dark cloud over you. Well, yeah, that's your mama, but that doesn't mean it's a dark cloud. That just means it's your mom's hologram and there's no color. It doesn't mean you've got an evil spirit going to take over your body, because the spirit world is too intelligent for that. Okay. What I would say is that sometimes we get them out of the peripheral, that you'll see sort of it's funny because I used to trip over my dog, Sam, all the time. I swear, I'm going to the kitchen, and they love to kind of come close right before we go to bed and right before we wake up, because, and of course, on the way to the ladies' room in the middle of the night, because your brain is in a different, you're in a different brainwave function, and you can perceive them a little bit easier. So what I would say is that if you've been feeling a presence in your house, who does it feel like? And don't be afraid, just who does it feel like, or who have you been thinking about? Because that's the loved one that you've been thinking about that's dropping by to say hello.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a second. It's interesting. There's a film that came out recently called, I'm not crazy about the title. It was called Life with Ghosts. And it means life with spirits. But they started doing university research on how helpful and healing it is for people to be open to having a continued connection with their loved ones and family and spirit. And part of how they were doing it was with automatic writing. So like writing letters to your loved ones in spirit and then receiving a reply, writing what you think they would say as a reply.
Yeah, that's awesome. But, the TV, remember the TV wants to get ratings.
Yeah.
So they want to, people like to be scared. I don't know why. I'm like, ooh, let me be shocked. But I don't know. It's kind of like when I was I was watching, Jason, Friday the 13th. Why would I want to do that? I'm scared to death. But, like this kid, we're curious. I want to say it's okay to be curious. There's no harm can come to you. So.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for explaining that. I will say one of my, among many of my favorite things about the work that you do is that it isn't just mediumship. It's healing grief first and foremost. It's helping people get back on track with their life again and feeling into what your life purpose is. It's if you want to connect with the spirit world, that's there. If you want to become more intuitive or connect with your higher self, that's there too. It's all these many, many layers and dimensions in it. And then guest speakers and everything else. And I've been really, really grateful to be part of your community.
Thank you.
For several years now. And okay, so as we are wrapping up today, wow, I just want to say thank you so much for
Thank you for having me.
My invitation. Yeah, I was so excited. I was like, I really want to bring you on and have this topic addressed because the grief, it's a big topic. And I really think it holds people back. And yet it's grief can be such a transformational influence in our life in a good way. If we unpack it, allow it in, welcome it in, move through it. And it literally can make our life 1,000 times better. But we have to be willing to to take that journey. And the first step on that journey is just accepting this is where I'm at.
Right.
Allow the process. Yeah. All right, everyone. I want to thank everyone who is listening in our Clear Vision Club today. I want to thank everyone who's listening on YouTube today. For those of you watching the replay, thank you again. Claudia will be back next week for the Clear Vision Wednesday episode with a new guest speaker. And we really, really appreciate each and every one of you. And so Clear Vision Club members, stay on the line. And Jennifer, we will have our little private Q&A session after this. Thank you everyone so much for